You ever notice when a black woman walks into work all put together that folks start acting funny, like your confidence offends them? I had a manager say to me, "Oh, this is a very laid back place. We don't really, do all of that." Ma'am, you don't do all that. Don't project your bare minimum onto me. I like to show up looking good because it makes me feel good. It's always extra when a black woman takes pride in herself. They call you bougie, say you're doing too much, you're extra. No, I just take pride in my appearance. And I noticed that it's not even about the makeup or the clothes. What they can't take is a black woman who shows up for herself and feels confident and knows that she looks good. And I don't care if you work in a kitchen, in a cubicle, I don't care where you work. Still show up and look good for your damn self. Because they're going to talk regardless, so you might as well give them something to talk about.
See, everybody's allowed to be proud of their history except black Americans. Why aren't we allowed to be proud of our history? Because pride in our history is a threat to everybody else. Pride in our history reminds white people of the horrible things that they've done. Pride in our history reminds these immigrants how little they've contributed to America. Pride in our history reminds everybody how wrong we've been done and how much money we're owed. Pride in our history makes everybody feel very uncomfortable. But yet we're expected to sit through Roman and Greek history, we're expected to learn about Chinese history, we're expected to learn about the Holocaust, but the minute we talk about ourselves, it's, oh my gosh, that was 400 years ago. Or if we talk about anything besides slavery, it's treated as if it's a conspiracy theory. Now, there's nothing but paintings of black people here in the Americas, but that's treated like a conspiracy theory. We can't even be prideful of things outside of slavery. Everybody wants us to only pride ourselves in slavery and being freed from the plantation and Martin Luther King. Our history goes back way before that. The world was black, not just Africa.
Of the Israeli government holding a private convention here in the United States. One of the people in attendance at this secret meeting was Judith Varney Shorer. She's a former Israeli consul general who was operating out of Atlanta. She was one of the main people saying that the biggest problem that they had was young black people in the United States. But don't worry, they've got some black leaders on the payroll.
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. The problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black is with the young generation of the black community.
This was an Israeli government official who was saying this. Not some low-level operative or some rogue member of their diplomatic corps. This was a senior member of their administrative government who was saying this on American soil. Their biggest problem wasn't Hamas or Hezbollah or the Palestinian Authority or Syria or even Iran. She said that Israel's biggest problem was young black people in the United States.
It would be if we don't change the value system of our children.
Yeah, that's why.
We might end up in slavery or we might be completely exterminated. Because America isn't just trying to find a place for black people. That was 50 years ago. America wants no place for black people. And if we keep this up along with the bunny hopping and the miscegenation of our DNA, you're going to wake up one day and you're not going to see no obviously black people.
Wow.
And if you don't see no obviously black people, they're going to rewrite the definition of what it means to be black anyway, and they will simply define us out of reality, and your whole reparations argument disappears with it.
Wow. Yeah.
So we have to understand that everything is contingent on love of self, unity, and identity with our Africanity.
Of course, yes, America fears a confident black generation. America has always had one fear, not black poverty, not black struggle, not black pain. America fears a black confident generation, a generation that knows who they are, knows their worth, and refuses to bow to anything or anyone. Because confidence breaks every system built on control. You believe that, yeah? The new generation of black Americans you see now are different. They are not begging for acceptance. They are not waiting for permissions. They are not apologizing for their identity. And that confidence terrifies a nation that spent centuries trying to silence them. Why? Because a confident Black person creates instead of copies, builds instead of leads instead of follows, questions instead of obeying blindly, and refuses to be manipulated by fear. Confidence is dangerous to any system that depends on insecurity. See, America was comfortable when Black people didn't believe in their own brilliance, when they doubted themselves, when they questioned their power, when they were thought to be small. But this new generation, they are waking up, they are healing, they are unlearning lies, they are discovering their genius. And America doesn't know how to handle Black people who are not broken. Anyways, let's watch these videos. I'll be back.
Yeah, it's absolutely foundational. And one of the greatest pieces of evidence that the African American population of this country is supposed to be the floorboards on which everything else is built is that no one wants to talk about it. And when you try to, it's like you've hit someone's funny bone. It's evidence by way of absence. No one ever just wants to say Black. It's always Black and brown or POC or BIPOC, so on and so forth. Even in the video before this video, when I clarified and said more specifically anti-Indigenous after saying anti-Black, so many well-intentioned non-Black people jumped on that part. They're willing to accept the culpability when it's less specific, because if you get specific, then you actually have to start addressing the issue, and the scope does need to be widened to include other people. In the case of that video specifically, anti-Indigenous was a very important distinction, but I genuinely think a lot of people are more comfortable grappling with the literal genocide of millions of Native American people than they are addressing the fact that slavery and anti-Blackness is the foundation for the new world, both economically, socially, and spiritually. Do not run with this metaphor as some kind of noble savage thing, but metaphorically speaking, Native Americans were the forest that was cleared to build this plantation, and African people were the trees that were burned in the furnace to keep things running. I think for a lot of people, it's easier to talk about the forest that's been cleared because they think that it can't be undone, which is not true. But it's easier to make all of these land acknowledgements and do all of these other things that they have no real intention of actually following up on than it is to talk about the trees that are being used to light the furnace, because that's what's keeping the lights on. Whiteness needs Blackness. In the context of America, whiteness needs African Americanness to be that crust. I'm telling you, from day one, all the way back in Spain, that was the power source. That funded the new world. And even in situations and pockets where that crust has gone from a material reality to more of an ideological underpinning, it's still a necessity. Me sitting here as a privileged American wearing these clothes that were manufactured in all these different countries, they still find themselves in a situation where someone comes from one of those aforementioned countries, arrives in this country, gets fed this same anti-Black narrative that has been keeping this machine running forever, even if it doesn't work anymore, and looks down on me or crosses to the other side of the street when they see me. And that's anti-Black, but it's not anti-Black for anti-Black's sake. It's anti-Black because they're pro-white. They want the American dream, and the American dream is what? I really feel like I shouldn't have to add this caveat, but when I make a metaphor comparing Native Americans and my own people to trees, one, it's not meant to be derogatory. I think being compared to a tree is a noble and beautiful thing. Two, we were dehumanized. So comparing us to a non-human thing actually seems very appropriate in this context.
Have you ever noticed that outside of religious people, the only other people in the earth that are expected to be humbled are African American men? Look at Deion Sanders, how the world is rooting for him to lose. Not because he's a bad guy, not because he's a bad coach, not because he's a superstar that went back to college to coach other young men to get them to the next level. But they're mad at Deion Sanders because he exemplifies a level of passion and cockiness that they were not ready for. In other words, they feel like he should be humble. He should go to the podium and he should be able to say, I'm thankful for a win this day, rather than saying, I'm prime time, play my theme music. He's not the only one. Look, LeBron James. They don't compliment LeBron James. In fact, the rest of his life has been spent compared to Michael Jordan, when Tom Brady never was compared to Joe Montana. Troy Aikman was never compared to Roger Staubach. We only compare African American men to other African American men in order to keep them humble. But why do we have to be the only men to be humbled when every other race, when every other gender, talks about their greatness and how great they are and their level of success. We call that passion. We call that love. Whenever a female feels good about themselves and exemplifies beauty, we say, girl, you ought to be able to feel good about yourself because nobody knows what hurt you've been through. But the minute an African-American man feels any level of confidence, we call him a narcissist. We say he needs to be humbled. Listen, he can't even do his job to a great level without somebody saying he
narcissist.
All about him.
Be humble.
LeBron James to Michael Jordan. Now we're comparing football players and who's the greatest class and who's the greatest running back and who's the greatest quarterback amongst African American men in order to diminish the accomplishment in which they walk in. I want to tell you this real quickly. African American men, whether you're Dr. Umar or you're Dr. Louis Farrakhan, if God has called you to something great, you ought to be able to walk in your greatness at such a high level that it brings honor and it brings glory to that position that you are walking in. Why? Because just like anyone else, you've been chosen for a season to exemplify greatness in the land. And you don't have to settle for somebody calling you a narcissist or saying you have to be humble just because you're walking in the greatness in which you've been required to do. Because guess what? If you was doing something bad, they would still talk about it.
This is exactly why the West fears a strong black leader who has power and control and can justly rule the people and serve them in the right manner. They fear people like Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey and Patrice Lumumba coming back in the forms of us and waking up the brilliant minds of our people. And trust me, we as black people will awaken and Africa will arise.
It's the fear that black people will outpace them. The reality is that white mediocrity has to be protected. They banned black jockeys at the Derby for a reason. And I wish it just stopped at that. But they didn't just ban black jockeys. This is why they did not want education to be a part of the black culture. If you go back to the height of the black community, ghetto has never been our culture. Black people have always been extraordinary, even under our most oppressive state. And not just outpacing them, European Americans fear the most that we think the exact same way they think. They think that we want to hurt them. That has never been black people's MO. Black people, Africans, indigenous people, we have all had the same mindset that this land and this world belongs to us all. We are all human, and we have always shown love to everybody. Europeans are the only people who seen good-hearted people and was like, hey, let's take their ish. Something in them drove them to do it, and you still see it currently active in them. They have always had the fear, and I mean, this is on documentation, think tanks. This is on documentation that they have always had the fear that we're going to do to them what they did to us. Even though they have been brutal to us, we don't want to do that. We have other things on our mind other than harming and being superior to somebody else. Black people are comfortable in their skin. Black people are happy amongst their people. It has always been that way, and it has always bothered them. Why? I don't even know. But it always seems like they have had a lack of acceptance, so instead of trying to communicate, they lash out.
J. Edgar Hoover made a statement. He said the worst thing to America is the unity of Negroes. That was his fear. That's the FBI's fear. And as you see, we're uniting black men, black women, Latin men, Latin women, Captain Shemaiah, Captain Gedaliah, Deacon Malachi, Deacon Malachiah, excellent job uniting brothers and sisters, husbands and wives together. A strong family creates a strong nation. And that's what we're doing.
Let's continue from where we stopped, right? Because when a generation rises with confidence, they can't be controlled, they can't be intimidated, they can't be misled, they can't be bought. God is raising a generation whose minds are sharp, whose spirits are strong, whose creativity is unmatched, and whose voices cannot be suppressed. This is not arrogance. This is restoration. This is what happens when the children of the oppressed become the leaders of the future. I'm so happy. Now let's close it. Let's wrap it up, right? So yes, America fears this confident Black American, not because they are violent, not because they are dangerous, not because they are chaotic, But because they are finally becoming everything this nation tried to stop. Smart, bold, aware, unstoppable, and the confidence rising in Black America right now, it's not rebellion, it's prophecy. This generation will not be silenced, they will not be controlled, and they will not be broken. Their rise is inevitable. Yeah, let me see you say in the comment section, my rise is inevitable. It doesn't matter your age. Even if you're 70, claim it. You're claiming it for your kids, you're claiming it for your grandchildren. Say it, my rise is inevitable, because this rise is definitely inevitable. We know they're scared of it, but this rise, nothing is going to stop it. So my name is Blessing, or BJ, on Global Gist with BJ. Please kindly subscribe, like, share these videos. It gives me joy when you watch my videos to the end, right? Turn on your notification button, right? Always support these videos when you see them, right? Always come back to watch the ones you didn't see while you're away or anything. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.